Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. The International Monetary Fund tells Trinidad and Tobago to work on fintech. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 11th September 2023. Brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Details when we return.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. The IMF is recommending that Trinidad and Tobago follow other jurisdictions in the region like the Bahamas, Bermuda, and Cayman Islands in adopting comprehensive legislation to promote the use of crypto assets. Avashitawari Rupnarayan of TV6 News reports.
The International Monetary Fund today published its Technical Assistance Report on FinTech regulations and legislation in Trinidad and Tobago. A Monetary and Capital Markets Department mission visited Port of Spain in April. It was found that the impact of FinTech in TNT is concentrated in the payment sector and is not yet broad-based to include areas such as crowdfunding, robo-advice, and crypto assets. While the report notes efforts by regulatory authorities to understand the impact of FinTech on financial markets, the report says the existing legal regime, which is the Securities Act 2012, does not cover new FinTech developments such as crypto asset activities. The act, which is influenced by North American models, is challenged, it says, in determining whether crypto assets fall under the concept of securities or investment contracts. In contrast, it says other jurisdictions in the region, like the Bahamas, Bermuda, and the Cayman Islands, have adopted comprehensive legislation to promote the use of crypto assets. If after an assessment, authorities decide to reform the legal framework, targeted legal changes supported by comprehensive regulations would be the recommended approach. Other alternatives, such as detailed legal regime or using exemptions to accommodate the needs of new activities, the report says contain more disadvantages, such as lengthy and cumbersome legislative process or the lack of legal basis for the use of general exemptions. Of the 61 firms engaging the Information Hub since its inception, 18, the report says, are crypto asset-focused firms. Among the findings and recommendations as it relates to e-money, the report says there appears to be room for further enhancements. Additionally, unlike the prevailing international practice, authorities have not adopted an entity-based approach for e-money regulation and supervision. Arvashitawari Rupnarayan, TV6 News.
In related business news, USAID and Trinidad and Tobago Chamber discuss climate change. Peter Christopher has that story.
On Tuesday, the United States Agency for International Development and the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce co-hosted the Energy and Climate Financing for Trinidad and Tobago event at the Hilton Conference Center in Port of Spain. The event was part of USAID's Caribbean Climate Investment Program, which aims to increase private sector investments in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and climate adaptation projects across the Caribbean region. U.S. Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago Candice Bond says the United States, under the U.S. Caribbean Partnership to Address the Climate Crisis 2030, PACC 2030, is committed to supporting Trinidad and Tobago's transition to a green economy. President of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber, Kiran Maharaj, in her address spoke on the need for all gathered to work together towards mitigating climate change. President of the National Gas Company, Mark Locan, also spoke on the importance of Trinidad and Tobago's clean energy transition and the journey to decarbonization. There must be some form of regulation of cryptocurrencies in Trinidad and Tobago so that local crypto investors can once again conduct transactions in local banks. This was the view of Mark Carrera, Chief Executive Officer of Z Labs. He explains that the absence of regulation coupled with foreign exchange strains led to local banks opting not to do business with local cryptocurrency investors.
People were using the US limits on their credit cards to purchase crypto, and they were taking that money, making a profit off of it, bringing it into their banks, and then profiting off of the spread. So it's less about a cryptocurrency conversation; it's more about a forex conversation.
Ferreira was speaking at a panel discussion entitled "Considerations in Crypto Asset Regulation," hosted by the Central Bank and the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission on Tuesday.
Over in St. Lucia, September is Suicide Awareness Month, and local psychotherapist is concerned that St. Lucia is facing a mental health crisis. Zane Romulus of the DBS News World reports.
Against a backdrop of mounting social and economic issues, the nation also finds itself in the grips of a mental health crisis. Clinical counselor at the National Mental Wellness Center, Alison Edward, highlighted this sobering reality during the recent Newsmaker Live program.
I think St. Lucia is in a crisis when it comes to mental health. Mental health diagnosis is on the rise. There's a high rate of diagnosis like schizophrenia, major depression, major depressive disorder, and bipolar disorder. And so that is on the rise in St. Lucia.
More support needs to be forthcoming from the government and civil society, says the mental health professional, if the country is to face this problem head on. The island's lone mental wellness center is not enough, with many suffering from mental illness roaming the streets.
And what other places? Because we only have the wellness center. Is there another place is there something else that can be done so that, persons could get the help that they need beyond the wellness center, in terms of finding ways, in terms of teaching persons how to cope and how to live their daily lives. So there's a lot that can be done, but it's not being done in terms of mental illness. We also have to look at the medication. Are there new and improved, medications that they have now on the market? Are we getting them? And why are we using the same medication all across the board throughout the islands? You have a mental illness and you feel like if you go to Dominica, they will give you another drug. You'll try something else. It's not. It's the same thing across the board.
Suicide and suicidal ideation continue to be major concerns. So far for the year, 4 individuals have taken their lives.
There is an economic crisis going on. Unemployment is still high. People are still looking for jobs. People have lost their jobs, around the time of, COVID. And plus anxiety and depression, they have risen to sky high since the pandemic, so there is not a good feeling around, but yet still there's a good feeling because things are starting to get better, and we are even working much harder at the wellness center and of course the helpline to basically help with the situation that's going on in St. Lucia when it comes to mental health.
Despite increased willingness and commonly shared stresses among the public, most adults who have only fair or poor mental health are still not comfortable talking to loved ones or a professional about it. In most cases, it is out of a desire to avoid the shame and stigma attached to mental health issues. Citizens are being urged to utilize the National Helpline 203, which provides support to people in emotional distress. In addition, one can seek out mental health services that are readily available at the Mental Wellness Center. For the DBS Newsroom, I am Zane Rom.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Former St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Dr. Timothy Harris responded to statements made about missing millions of dollars at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline reports.
Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew has on several occasions criticized the manner in which the Development Bank was operated, indicating there was an urgent need to stabilize the bank and to carry out investigations into alleged missing funds. The Prime Minister had also indicated that a forensic investigation was completed and was being reviewed. Dr. Harris, a PLP Member of Parliament in the National Assembly of St. Kitts and Nevis, was a guest on the 4th September Straight Talk Forum hosted by former Minister and Ambassador Ian Patches-Lyberth, who inquired of Dr. Harris about the alleged missing $20 million at the Development Bank, stemming from the period of time when he was Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
It doesn't make sense to anyone country that $20 million to quote him in cash disappeared. Well, if he know it disappeared, then he should be able to identify who take it. It's 12 months now. It's 12 months now. And it is therefore highly callous, highly irresponsible for any Minister of Finance to speak so foolishly in relation to such a significant institution and such a significant matter. He's playing mind games, and it is unfortunate. And that is why the government has become bogged down in nothingness. The government is not doing anything. The government is on a witch hunt, trying to find something to lay its hand on, as if that would solve the hardship in the country. It will not. And that is why he will not go further than saying $20 million disappear. Well, even a child would ask him, disappear where? Where is it? Who are the people? What are their names? When? What date? In what form? He said, in the form of cash. But tell us how that? How that? Because you would hardly believe that $20 million passed through any of the financial institution in cash in any way that could allow such an incident to occur. It is foolishness. It is political hogwash, and it must be treated that way, and the Prime Minister must be condemned for such irresponsible behavior.
Harris described the Prime Minister's statement made in the National Assembly as a silly proposition coming from a Minister of Finance. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
PICA and Jamaica Customs Agency's online system faces hurdles after a lengthy fight and exasperation of enduring long waits as being particularly vexing. In a bid to alleviate this issue, the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, in collaboration with Jamaica Customs Agency, introduced an online system. More in this CVM Live news item.
So it appears there may have been some misunderstanding surrounding the newly implemented online C5 form system. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang recently announced the system was hacked. However, representatives from the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, along with cybersecurity experts, are clarifying the system was neither hacked nor hijacked, but they are experiencing phishing attacks.
What it happens is that persons will create a site impersonating our site.
Anybody can do, but you don't need to hack anything to do that. You know, like how people who go to the U.S. Embassy to get visa, right?
Right.
They're supposed to fill out a form. But you can go to somebody, if you can't read all right, and have them fill out the form for you. They don't stop that from happening, and people have entire businesses that do that.
When CVM News searched for forms using cue phrases such as Jamaica 5 forms, these are the displayed options. Now, if you notice, most bear the Jamaican flag and PICA emblem, key features considered to be unique identifiers. This therefore begs the question, how does one decide which is real or fake?
Once they're asking you for payment, you're not on the right side.
You enter jamaica.com. That is the site that you must visit. The government of Jamaica is not charging for the site or the filling out of the application form. PICA is not charging.
When asked about the legal implications, cybersecurity expert Trevor Forrest says all the sites would have to be looked at independently. He adds if sites use images or emblems that were explicitly prohibited by the government, then the possibility is they can be charged. Forrest further recommends the relevant authorities change their uniform resource locator.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.